Australia, 1936. What you're seeing isn't a scene from a Hollywood blockbuster. It's real. Police officers, yes, actual lawmen, strapped into sidecars like gladiators on roaring steel beasts. This was the police carnival, where speed met sheer madness. These men weren't just racing. They were putting their lives on the line, chariot style, on motorcycles tearing across the dirt at breakneck speed. No helmets that could truly save them, no modern safety barriers. Just raw courage and a grip on history's most dangerous thrill ride. Crowds roared as engines screamed and dust filled the air. Today, this would be unthinkable, but back then, it was a spectacle of power, pride, and reckless daring. Would you have had the guts to ride this strange contraption? Believe it or not, it was one of the world's very first gym machines. The year was 1892, and Swedish physician Dr. Gustav Zander believed exercise could be mechanized. Instead of lifting free weights, people sat in machines like this, using pulleys, gears, and belts to build strength. Zander's machines were seen as cutting-edge, so advanced that his gyms spread across Europe and America, attracting the wealthy elite. They promised health, vigor, and even beauty, all through science and engineering. Today, it looks bizarre, almost like a torture device, but in its time, it was revolutionary. Would you dare to train on this Victorian-era fitness machine? This rare photograph from 1903 shows two towering Kashmiri guards standing beside Professor James Rickalton at the Delhi Durbar in India. Look closely. The professor isn't short. These men were truly giants, chosen for their height and strength to serve in ceremonial roles. The Delhi Durbar was an extravagant event, celebrating British imperial power, where royalty, soldiers, and dignitaries gathered under the blazing Indian sun. Guards like these symbolized authority and grandeur, leaving onlookers in awe. Can you imagine walking through a gate and being greeted by men this tall? Today, this image is more than a curiosity. It's a glimpse into the lavish pageantry of a bygone empire. Would you feel amazed or intimidated? This unusual photo from 1930 captures a beauty contest in London, but not the kind you're thinking of. Here, judges weren't looking at faces, only ankles. That's right. Ankle competitions were a real craze during the early 20th century, when modesty ruled and showing legs was considered daring. To keep things proper, contestants hid behind curtains, leaving only their legs exposed for judgment. The perfect ankle was seen as a sign of elegance and femininity. Imagine winning a trophy based on just this part of your body. Would you ever take part in a contest like this? Or does it seem completely absurd today? This photo shows the Minneapolis Lakers in 1950, the NBA champions of that year. But something stands out immediately. There are no African-American players on this team. In fact, the league at that time was entirely segregated. It wasn't until the following year, in 1950, that the NBA finally broke the color barrier, when Earl Lloyd became the first black player to appear in a game. This image captures a moment just before a historic shift that would change basketball forever. Looking at this lineup, could you imagine the NBA without diversity today? How different do you think the game, and its culture, would be if this barrier had never been broken? In 1919, just after World War I ended, Charles Godefroy pulled off one of the most daring stunts in aviation history. To honor fallen pilots and protest the lack of recognition for aviators, he flew his tiny biplane straight through the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Imagine the precision it took. The gap was barely wide enough for his wings. Crowds gasped as he roared through the monument at incredible speed, right in the heart of the city. Godefroy risked his life for a statement that would echo through history. Would you call this an act of heroism, rebellion, or sheer madness? What do you think drove him to take such a dangerous gamble? In 1970, a young college student named Gary Anderson changed the world with a simple design, the recycling symbol. It was created for a contest during the first Earth Day, a time when environmental awareness was just beginning. Anderson's design, a triangle of arrows forming a loop, became a universal icon for sustainability. But here's the twist: he never made a fortune from it. The symbol entered the public domain immediately, becoming free for everyone to use. Think about that. One of the most recognized symbols in history, created by a student with no idea of its future impact. Do you think something like this could happen today in a world obsessed with trademarks and ownership? In 1941, during an era fascinated with the paranormal, a telepath attempted something extraordinary: hypnotizing a chimpanzee. This photograph captures the tense moment as the man stares intently into the animal's eyes, believing he could control its mind. Back then, hypnosis and telepathy were surrounded by mystery, and many believed they could break the barriers of human communication. But could hypnosis really work on a creature that doesn't understand language? The results were never conclusive, but this image became a symbol of how far human curiosity will go. What do you think? Can the mind truly influence another being without words? In 1907, this strange-looking suit was considered cutting-edge technology. Known as the Iron Man, it was one of the earliest attempts at creating a deep-sea diving suit. Built entirely from metal, it weighed hundreds of pounds and was designed to withstand crushing underwater pressure. But there was a problem. It was so heavy and rigid that moving around was nearly impossible. The diver relied on air pumped through hoses from the surface, and one wrong move could be fatal. This photo is a reminder of how far we've come in engineering and safety. Could you imagine trusting your life to something like this? This photo shows what one adult's weekly ration looked like during World War II. Just imagine living on this: 3 ounces of bacon, 1 egg, 2 ounces of butter, 2 ounces of jam, 2 ounces of sweets, 2 ounces of tea, 8 ounces of sugar, and a small portion of meat. Only 12 ounces a week, including corned beef. People also got 3 ounces of cheese and 2 ounces of cooking fat. Fresh food was rare, and ration books were essential for survival. Every meal had to be carefully planned. Could you live on this for an entire week? Many did, and they called it normal life. This striking hairstyle was once a proud symbol of identity in Rwanda. Taken in the 1920s, it shows the traditional Amasunzu haircut, an intricate style worn by men and women to signify status, strength, and beauty. For men, it often represented readiness for marriage, while for women, it could symbolize virtue or social standing. Creating this look required incredible skill and patience, with each curve carefully sculpted by hand. Today, it's a rare sight, but back then, it was a bold cultural statement. Imagine the pride carried in every strand of this timeless art. Would you dare to do this for a living? In 1933, in Berlin, this man climbed into a glass tank filled with crocodiles just to entertain a crowd. It wasn't a stunt for fame on social media. This was real, life-threatening entertainment. One wrong move, and it could all be over. Circus acts of the early 20th century pushed human limits in ways that would be unthinkable today. Looking at this photo, you can feel the tension, the danger lurking in every second. Imagine the audience holding their breath, knowing this wasn't an illusion. This was survival as a spectacle. What if I told you this man claimed he could defy gravity? In 1939, Welsh spiritualist Colin Evans stunned audiences by appearing to levitate in the middle of a crowded seance. People gasped as he hovered above the floor, proof, they believed, of supernatural powers. But here's the truth: it was all an illusion. Evans used a simple trick. A hidden foot pedal on his chair triggered the camera flash at the perfect moment, capturing him mid-jump. For decades, this photo circulated as evidence of the paranormal. It's a haunting reminder that even in the age of science, mystery can still make us believe. Amid the chaos of World War II, even the simplest tasks became a battle. This photo from 1944 shows two soldiers washing clothes in a makeshift laundry station. No modern machines, no comforts, just grit and improvisation in the middle of a war zone. Clean uniforms weren't just about hygiene. They were a lifeline against disease and infection. While bombs fell and battles raged, moments like this offered a brief glimpse of normal life, a fragile reminder of home in a world torn apart. Mexico, June 1986. The streets erupted in joy during the FIFA World Cup. This photo captures the raw energy of fans celebrating in the heart of Mexico City, waving flags and honking horns as history unfolded on the field. For a nation passionate about football, hosting the World Cup wasn't just a sporting event, it was a cultural explosion. Every cheer, every victory brought strangers together, turning the Zocalo into a sea of green, white, and red. A moment when sport united an entire country in pure, unstoppable euphoria. United States, 1935. This photo captures a home economics class during the Great Depression, a time when learning how to cook and manage a household was considered essential education for young women. These classes weren't just about recipes. They were about survival, teaching skills to make the most of limited resources in a struggling economy. In an era before convenience foods and modern appliances, these students learned the fundamentals of self-sufficiency, shaping the domestic culture of an entire generation. United States, 1935. This striking photo was part of a promotional campaign for the National Air Races, one of the most thrilling spectacles of the era. These races weren't just aviation competitions. They were full-scale events combining cutting-edge aircraft technology, daring pilots, and glamorous entertainment. To capture the excitement of speed and innovation, organizers often featured women dressed in futuristic or aviation-inspired costumes, like the one seen here with exaggerated metallic wings. It symbolized progress, freedom, and the glamorous allure of flight in the 1930s. These races fueled America's fascination with aviation during the golden age of flight and paved the way for modern air shows and aerobatic competitions. Italy, 1956. This breathtaking view of Cortina d'Ampezzo marked the stage for the 7 Winter Olympic Games. Nestled in the Dolomite Alps, this was the first Winter Olympics ever broadcast on television, opening the Games to millions of viewers worldwide and forever changing sports history. These games introduced new technologies, including the first use of computers to calculate results and the debut of metal ski edges, revolutionizing alpine skiing. Beyond the competition, the 1956 Olympics symbolized post-war optimism and the power of global unity through sport. For Italy, hosting the Games was a statement of resilience and beauty, where tradition met innovation in the heart of the snow-covered mountains. Mexico, 1910. This intense gaze belongs to Emiliano Zapata, one of the most iconic figures of the Mexican Revolution. Zapata became the voice of the landless peasants, fighting for the redistribution of land under his rallying cry, Tierra y Libertad, land and liberty. Unlike many revolutionary leaders, Zapata refused political power, dedicating his life to the people of Morelos and their right to own the land they worked. His plan of Ayala challenged corruption and demanded justice, making him a symbol of resistance against tyranny. Even after his assassination in 1919, Zapata's legacy endured. Today, his name represents courage, dignity, and the eternal struggle for equality and social justice.